Take two.
So for our project, we decided to look at transition from a meat to a plant-based diet on UW's campus. So just a quick overview of what we're going to go through in our presentation. We're going to start with an overview of what our paper was all about. And then we're going to look at the environmental and health impacts of a meat-based diet on campus, or in general. And then we're going to look at current UW initiatives. So this includes St. Paul's Meatless Mondays and a Meatless Monday driven by AHS that's going to be across campus. Then we're going to look at our survey results, followed by some recommendations and conclusions. So this graph right here. So for our project, we decided to explore meat versus veg consumption on campus. We're really interested in the environmental impacts of a meat-based diet. We wanted to look further into how we could reduce UW's meat consumption. So we are interested in gathering some information regarding student perceptions of a meat-based diet and how students would react to less meat options being offered on campus, whether that would be every day or just certain days of the week, like a Meatless Monday program. And then lastly, we identified various initiatives that are already in place on UW's campus, and then options of what other campuses are doing to reduce their meat consumption. And we'll go into a little bit further detail regarding all of these further on in the presentation. So this graph here just shows meat consumption from various countries across the globe. Canada having the third highest consumption following Australia and the US. One interesting thing with this graph is if you look at just our poultry consumption is about the same as the world average for poultry, beef, and pork all combined. So we thought this was just a good way to show the need to reduce Canada's overall meat consumption, and then we are thinking of a smaller scale, reducing our campuses to add into that. So we created a little infographic here to show the environmental impacts of a meat-based diet. So we had information under 4 broad topics: global greenhouse gas emissions, land use, water use, and deforestation. We know obviously this isn't the extent of all the environmental impacts of a meat-based diet and the animal agriculture industry. However, we believe this did a good job of getting that point across. So under the global greenhouse gas emissions theme, 51% of global greenhouse gas emissions is due to livestock and their byproducts. And this number is expected to increase 80% by 2050. In regards to land use, 45% of the Earth's habitable land mass is used by livestock, and then taking this down to a smaller scale, 2 to 5 acres of land is required per cow. And then in regards to water use, to make 1 hamburger it takes 660 gallons of water, and then animal agriculture accounts for 35 to 76 trillion gallons of water annually. So then we also decided to include some of the health impacts of a meat-based diet, not just the environmental impacts, because this is a factor as well. So just some background information. We found stats on the average American, and they consume 3 times the recommended healthy amount of meat daily, which we assume is quite similar to Canadians, especially looking at the graph that we had showed previously where our meat consumption is so high. Some health conditions that have been linked to a meat intensive diet include an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, increased risk of breast, prostate, and bowel cancer, and an increased risk of developing cardiovascular disease or fatty liver disease.
So I'm going to chat about some current initiatives here on UW's campus. So we focus on St. Paul's Meatless Mondays, AHS Meatless Mondays, and St. Paul's Fresh Fridays. Ooh. There was supposed to be some graphics here. For St. Paul's Meatless Mondays, we met with Alicia Ryder. She's the head of the cafeteria at St. Paul's. And she told us that Meatless Mondays began in October of 2015 for that residence. And their main reasons for starting it, they worked alongside the St. Paul's Green Team. So there was a lot of environmental reasons that they switched. So some of the ones that Jess talked about, along with reducing one's carbon footprint. And yeah, there was also no major economic benefit or loss for Alicia in terms of buying meat or other products because they would basically have to buy a veggie protein if they weren't buying a meat anyway, and those are pretty similar in cost. So at St. Paul's, Meatless Mondays operates in the following ways. They still do offer meat, but they offer at least one extra vegetarian option for the residents. And it's pretty cool. They actually let students submit vegetarian recipes, and then we'll cook some of them for the entire college. So that's pretty neat. In the 2015-2016 school year, there was 15% of the St. Paul students that were vegetarian, and this school year that number's up to 30%. So as a making students more aware, some people the last school year actually switched from a meat-based diet to a vegetarian diet, and then lots of others just participated in the Meatless Monday initiative. Fresh Fridays is another thing that St. Paul's is trying. They're trying to offer more fresh and raw foods every Friday, even throughout the winter months. This can save over 15 gallons of water for each day they do it, as well as a bunch of energy because they unplug steam tables that they use to cook and heat food. And the stat that is cut off at the bottom there is from 2012 to 2015, produce purchasing went up at St. Paul's by 25%. AHS Meals Monday, Stephanie talked about this basically, so I'll go through this super quick, but there's an event this Monday at the Grad House. There's a group of AHS students and staff that are launching this campaign. Stephanie's going to be a speaker as well as some others. I think they've ordered like $100 worth of nachos that need to be eaten, so they told me to plug their event and get all you guys out, so yeah. They're putting up posters in the ENV and AHS buildings to advertise this initiative. They're hoping to host monthly or bi-monthly events. They've got some funding already, $500 from an AHS grant, as well as they're hoping to get some WestF funding through Stephanie herself. And then they're looking at some events like trips to local farmers markets, as well as creating recipe books for their students. Other campuses, U of T does Veggie Mondays, and they actually offer 10% off your meal card if you pledge to go meatless on Mondays. Trent University has a vegetarian cafe. U of G promotes vegan options. UBC and University of Winnipeg promote local foods. And the University of Western has a campus-wide Meatless Mondays initiative going currently.
Okay, so as we discussed, we did a few surveys. One of the questions we asked was, how often do you buy meat-based food on campus? And a good portion at the SLC said that they do, often. However, the St. Paul's results may be a little bit off because some people consider St. Paul's not a part of campus. We also asked if they were aware of the health and environmental impacts of meat consumption and production. And a lot of people said that they were aware of the impacts, but in suggestions said that they need more education or awareness of what the impacts are. So they're aware that there are impacts, but not what they are. We asked what their diets consisted of, and a good portion said that they don't have any dietary restrictions, meaning they consume multiple types of meat. But a fair portion were also vegetarian or had other dietary restrictions, such as cultural or for health reasons. And at least 13%, you can see from here, would benefit from more veggie options on campus. We also asked if people are aware of the initiatives on campus, such as the Meatless Monday, Fresh Friday, and the Market Garden. And reasonably at St. Paul's, almost everyone said that they were aware of at least one of these initiatives. You can't miss the signs when you go in there. However, at SLC, a lot of people weren't aware of any of the initiatives going on. We also asked where people purchase their food on campus. Other than St. Paul's, where we surveyed, we got a lot of Tim Hortons, SLC, the Williams, Subway, Starbucks, so a lot of coffee shops as the most popular. And these may be a good place to start with implementing initiatives across campus. Lastly, we asked what would make people choose to eat less meat. A lot of people said that they wouldn't eat less meat, no matter what. But the people who did give recommendations, we put here. So a lot of people said that they want more healthy, affordable, and convenient options.
and they want more vegetarian and vegan options, preferably with protein in them. We also suggested that following other universities such as UT may be beneficial because we can implement things like that discount on veggie options. The literature and surveys also suggest better education and better advertisement, as most people weren't aware of the impacts or weren't aware that the initiatives were even going on. But on a larger scale, they also recommended normalizing a healthy lifestyle. So to conclude, meat-based diets are unsustainable environmentally and health-wise, but there are a lot of movements to decrease meat consumption in general. The St. Paul's and AHS Meatless Mondays could be easily expanded across campus. However, changing people's perceptions is not easy, but they're mainly unaware of the impacts. So maybe changing people's perceptions would be a good place to start. Thank you.
Great job. Questions?
I've got one.
Okay.
Have you guys thought of talking to the faculty C&Ds? Like, I know the environment coffee shop, they're obviously, they have a lot of vegetarian options and things like that, but maybe the science C&D or the arts faculty, as a way of sort of spreading this idea to other faculties?
Yeah, I think most of the CNDs, that would be a really good place to start. I think most of them though are just like pastries and like donuts and muffins and coffees and drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know we have like our rice dishes and like we already have the veggie samosas, so there's one meat option gone. And the sandwiches, I guess there are meat options as well. I guess we have to look a little bit further into what types of food the other CNDs are offering, if it's just like their coffee and donuts or if they have like meal options as well as we do.
Also, the AHS initiative, they're looking at using environment as a resource to try and link it.
They're trying to tap into people in our faculty to kind of push their initiative out.
I think theirs is predominantly over like the health impacts.
Right.
So like mixing with our faculty could be a really great way to show environmental and the health impacts and like combine them.
Richard?
For people that are not willing to really transition their diet so much, is there maybe an appropriate approach to compromise and market less detrimental meats, like chicken has less land impacts or water impacts than beef, for example? Is that a consideration?
Yeah, you could maybe do like beefless Mondays or something like that so that they could participate in this as well and not feel so restricted. Because I know when we were talking to St. Paul's, they were telling us that last year there was a little bit of backlash from students regarding meatless Mondays and just the idea of not being able to eat meat on Mondays. Kind of people don't like being told what to do.
They also weren't aware what the initiative was because they didn't get the information out beforehand.
So yeah, maybe just taking away like the most like beef on Mondays or something like that and getting them to eat a less impactful.
And so on that note, my understanding is that Meatless Mondays doesn't actually eliminate meat, right? It just features the vegetarian. So
Right.
do you have any stats from St. Paul's about what percent of students were actually ordering meat? They don't have it.
No, they don't have any stats on that, unfortunately.
They
So-
were going to look into doing that.
Striking that they're not measuring it.
I know.
They said this year they might put a button on their cash register so they can
Right.
enter the meatless Monday one and kind of get some more data on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't have it.
Yeah, whether that starts next term or in
They need
a few
some help
years, we're not
for
entirely
research.
sure how fast they're going to move.
Right. Recommendations.
Was there another hand? No? I thought I saw one.
So I was surprised that you said that at least in their view, that there was not a cost savings associated with the Meatless Mondays. Although I did see that you also mentioned, increased the cost of buying fresh produce. So
Right.
maybe that's kind of how things balance out. But from the literature that you reviewed, was that a similar finding elsewhere, or was elsewhere were they finding cost savings associated with Meatless
I don't
Mondays?
think we found any information on that. For the other universities, they didn't really advertise that. So I guess that's all internal, so they're not going to.
Right, but I mean, just in terms of the management side of things, it would be interesting to find literature on that.
And I think the reason that they may have said that there was no cost difference is because they don't have the actual data either
Yeah.
on what they bought exactly. I don't think it was very all broad data.
They don't have a breakdown of
Yeah.
exactly what they brought, but they have like numbers from prior to Meals Mondays
Yeah.
and Meals Mondays
Yeah.
are identical.
From one year to the
And an
next.
increase in buying produce could be because there's more students or something
Yeah.
like that as well. So they
And we're
weren't really-
vegetarians, like I said in
Yeah.
that one stat, potentially that's also
Yeah.
why.
Okay, great. All right.
No, one more.
Yeah,
So how did you survey people, like, did you consider that at St. Paul's they're mostly environment students, or when you were at SLC, like, did you consider how, like, maybe how to market, or how to, did you, was it an option to select your faculty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Did you take that, like, did you figure out, like, take that into consideration for anything, or?
We
because-
did.
Because you feel like environment students would be more keen to,
Right.
I wanna be, like, they'd be more knowledgeable and more keen to be aware of these things, while other faculties are just like, well, I need chicken, or,
We did consider that, it just wasn't in these, but a lot more environmental students were either vegetarian or vegan compared to other faculties.
But even with St. Paul's this year, like when we think of St. Paul's, we think that it's mostly environment students as first years. But this year, I think it's like almost a 50-50 with other faculties, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's about 60-40 environment students.
I know, but what I mean is just because environment faculty is a small faculty compared to math, engineering and stuff, so your data might be a little skewed towards, yeah, we should change because you picked people, because you surveyed from areas that are aware of the environment stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like a.
That's why we did the 2 surveys, to see if there was a skew.
Yeah, I think that's why we chose because we were originally thinking we could do it in the